Hello again, I'm Wendy, and today I'm going to be working on something I just recently discovered called Reverse Coloring Book. Now, in my previous video, where I did some abstract backgrounds in watercolor, I chose a color family similar to what I'm wearing and similar to this painting because these are colors that I love. And I created this. And today I'm going to take one of these, just one page, and show you what you can do with an abstract background in watercolor. So let's get started. Just a little explanation about how I did this if you haven't seen the previous video, and it is linked below, so go have a look if you haven't. I used this 3/4 inch brush and just used a lot of water and a lot of paint and just kind of let it blend together. Today I'm not working on that. I'm going to leave that brush out. Don't need my water right now, so I'll push that back. Don't need that either. However, I do need clips because whenever water gets on paper, it will make it buckle and warp. And that's what happened here because it was only wet on one side. And what I need for this is a micron pen of some kind, and here's just a couple of examples. They come in different widths of nib and also in different colors. You can also use Sharpies, you can use color if you want to. For this exercise I'm going to use primarily this 0.5 micron pen in black. Now these are tinier, number 003, like more zeros the smaller it is, but I want, and that's like hair, so I want to actually be able to see the lines. And what I want to do with this is just outline the shapes that I see and kind of see what comes up and what it looks like. And basically it's going to remain fairly abstract because of the shapes that I'm getting. So this is basically all it requires, but the surprise comes after. Now you can also add your own lines and marks and in any way, shape, or form that you want to. So here I've got a situation where, like these, where I allowed the paint to sort of bleed into each other and have soft edges, so I can actually kind of interpret that however I want. And by outlining the colors, it makes them each stand out more. And what we might find is that we get some interesting shapes out of it. Also recommend, don't make them too perfect. See how this is kind of almost hairy? Interesting. It's a bit of a divide here, which I make more of a divide by just outlining it. Even though the paint overlaps in color. Now, where do I go from here? Well, I get to choose. So if I wanted to outline this in a different way, I certainly could. Someone outside is banging a vehicle door over and over again. Not sure if you can hear that or not. A little bit more blue-green here. Just going to attach those. You can see how quick this is. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually just create images. For example, this blue actually looks like I could make a rose out of this if I wanted to. At the moment, I think I'm just going to leave it. I see it's raining again. It just absolutely poured last night and this morning. When I got up, it was pouring rain. And my husband and I joke that at times like that we have lakefront property because the street in front of the house is so full of water. It's coming down so fast. There's construction about a half a block away, and I think the sound is coming from over there. Look at that little spot. So you can see how simple this is, but also you can just do it for hours and it's just so relaxing. And because there's no expected outcome, you know, it doesn't really matter what you do with it. Now, I have something that's just totally blended together. Do I want to separate it? I don't know. So I'm going to just move on down here and leave it at the moment and see how I feel about it. Just go back up here, get that nice squarish corner in. But then you can see here where the paint really drifted into the water next to it. It's almost like the fjords of Norway. Not that I've seen them, but I live in British Columbia and we have similar kinds of things here on the ocean. Such lovely shapes and unusual. Before I had started with the background, I had decided that this is what I was going to do. I could have used it, made more definite shapes. That would be one choice. I had kind of thought of it, but it doesn't really matter because, as it turns out, you can create your own definite shapes however you want to. I love how this soft pink and this soft green kind of blended right together into this lovely, really pastel little spot. And again, just a little raggedy edge here. I'm going to put a line down here, even though there kind of isn't one, so it's creating something that isn't there. And even through here, try not to leave too many loose ends, although I could if I wanted to. And then just again, this is where it was wet here, dry, or paint here, and the paint just blooms into the water and leaves these lovely little tendrily pieces here. You can do this quickly or slowly. I'm just speeding it up a little bit so that it doesn't take us all day. See, look at that. I mean, this is, as abstract art goes, I think this really works well. And I can go back around and do I want more definition? Well, why not? Do I want more marks? There's a little bit of yellow in here. That's pretty. A little bit of color variation along there. Where else? Oh yes, this part that I wasn't sure about. Okay, well, let's make a decision and outline it like that. And then when you look more closely, you can see the variations in the color, and you can outline those as well and make them a little bit more distinct. And then in this area here, again, like I said, I could have made that into a rose or some kind of flower. But outlining them actually makes them more obvious. It almost says there's color definition here. This became very watery because I pulled it off there on purpose to kind of make them meet up. I like it. The more you look at it, the more you see things. I am so tempted to add more color. I'm going to do that. I've decided, after all, to do some painting in it. I'm going to pick up the colors that I actually used, like here, and just emphasize this area. So now it's become not reverse anymore. It's more like this is the real thing. Coloring book. This is so much fun. I can't believe it. I've never done this before, so it's like, whoa, well, that's a surprise. And this one, I think I want to mix a little bit of this color in here. Not maybe paint it all in, but just some little watercolory stuff. And you know what? I want to put some water into the paints here that I used, because just to get them going again. as I mentioned, I could make something representational, and all that means is something that you recognize in real life, whereas abstract painting doesn't necessarily represent anything. It's open to interpretation, but a representational art is like, okay, I recognize a mountain and a cabin, or I recognize a horse and a dog. It's important to be delighted with your work and not be too judgmental. One way you can do that is to just enjoy the process of paint and paper and pen or whatever it is that you use. Just enjoy the process of playing with it, and then leave it. And before you think it's finished, just go away from it. I'm going to put some purple in here. So I'm going to mix these two colors, which are Prussian blue and quinacridone rose. And I want it to be a little bit more on the blue side. So we'll just do that. And then throw this in here along this edge. One thing I'd recommend too is don't hold your brush right up close to the bristles. Hold it farther back. Hold it as far back as you can, because then you get looser movement. And now I don't want this edge to be sharp, so I just put some water along there and let the color bleed into it. All right, here's a little trick for you. This is clear water. I'm going to put it along this edge here. And then I want to take my paint and just go along the edge like this and let it do what it's going to do. You can see on the right hand side here, it wasn't very wet on the bottom. Oh, look at this little peninsula. Okay, now here I want to push it back a little bit because it's coming down farther than I wanted it to. So I just take the moisture out of my brush and I'm basically picking up that water. See? It's effective, isn't it? Now I feel like it needs something kind of to pop right in here. And I think I might just go with this yellow-green, because just to give it a bit of contrast. So there's a fun idea. It's very relaxing. Once it's dry, I can go back in with my pen. So for example, along here, I can outline this edge like that, and a little bit more down here. That one goes off the page. I can also outline this edge if I want, and some of these other edges if I want to, but I don't have to. So there's something fun to try with your sketchbook and watercolor. And just, this is archival ink, so it's permanent. So if you paint over it, it's not going to smear and run and anything like that. And then, as I mentioned in my previous video, if you want to, you could take a page like this and cut it into shapes like leaves or flowers or whatever, and use them in collages. So there's lots of fun things you can do with abstract watercolor pages and ink and, yeah, basically you name it. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.